Hello everyone, this is Kevin, your entrepreneur, and I want to state up front, this is the first video I've made where I'm quoting two articles. Because I originally had made two separate videos on the topic, and I felt that it was redundant, I want to combine them, and then I couldn't edit them, so we're just going to try over a third time. But there have been stories coming out that while Travis Kalanick might be on a leave of absence from Uber, he might secretly be compiling more power than ever. And you know what? That's just the kind of thing that evil geniuses do. They accumulate power when you think they're down. And the way he can do so is actually very legitimate. And I'm going to stress, it's very possible this can happen. I'm not even going to suggest it can't happen. This very well could happen. And the way it's going to happen is, basically, even though Uber is not a publicly traded company, there are still shares in the company employees have, where some people have share options and they basically get a lot of money when the company does go public because they already have shares that become real money. Well, those shares, like anything else, can still be sold to people. They're just privately sold. They're not publicly sold. And one of the strings attached to this is that and this is not normally how it works when it's publicly traded. If it's publicly traded, if Uber ever becomes publicly traded, this is not going to be the case. But since it's still private and these are private shares, this is how it's going to work. I mean, each share comes with certain voting rights on tiers A, B, and C. You know, A has more voting power and C has lesser voting power. But shares come with these different levels of voting power, to be precise. Now, Kalanick has a lot of A voting rights, obviously. That's how he kind of got to run amok throughout the company for so long. They weren't enough to keep him from being forced out of the company, but here's the thing. He wrote in the contracts for everyone that were hired, well, not he personally, his lawyers, of course, that if they were to sell their shares, they were allowed to do so, but that the voting rights would go to Kalanick if those shares got sold. You kind of see where I'm getting at here. So if a bunch of people at Uber decided to sell their shares privately to other people might buy the shares because they're hoping up for that IPO and they're hoping that the IPO will be successful and they can cash out and make more money. But if they buy those shares from those people, they're not going to get the voting rights for the company. Those voting rights will go to Kalanick. So if these people start selling their shares, well, Kalanick gets a lot more voting power, and then we're kind of back to where we were 2 weeks ago, essentially. Kalanick running the show like a maniac, and maybe even more so because he would have even less power against him. That was one of the reasons the Uber board started firing people who were close to Kalanick to try to shift the power of balance. And they might have effectively done that, I think. I mean, the fact that he has been forced out of the company temporarily suggests that his voting power only went so far. But because of this little thing, and the company, I don't know if it was done intentionally or whether they didn't realize they got gamed, if people start selling their shares, Kalanick can start amassing more voting power, and he's basically going to be taking a vacation, lick his wounds, and come back, and then there's no way to remove him again. The only reason this isn't going to happen right away is because, according to an article by CNBC, apparently Uber employees have been trying to sell their shares in Uber. They don't want to be part of this company anymore. They've been seeing what's been going on for months. They've been reading the news story. They read the Holder report now officially, and they're done. They're just done with their company. And this is on top of the fact that the company's not profitable despite bringing in billions of dollars. And that's not good. So a lot of employees are trying to sell their shares. And if they sell their shares, Uber gets the voting rights, but they haven't sold most of the shares because they're having a hard time finding people to buy. And that's because businessmen are reading the same news you and I read. Some of them might even be watching these videos. Possibly. And they see the company, they see the culture. Now they hear about this little, strings attached where the guy who made this mess in the first place gets more power if they invest in the company, which, they need that company to be successful and, be good by the time it goes public. Well, guess what? They don't want to buy. Now, I'm not saying there's no buyers. In fact, I'm pretty certain that there's going to be people buying some of these shares because, Uber is still a hot commodity. It's still very popular. And with most popular things, at one point, you assume it would make a profit. But this report showed that there have been employees for months, because Uber offered those options to cash out early, that, hey, we want to sell, and there's no one to buy. Or there's very few people to buy because this company is just that toxic. And if you think about it like that, getting put on a forced leave of absence would probably be the best thing that could happen to Kalanick, because in a month or so, Uber might be showing signs of improvement, possibly. And people might still be trying to sell their shares. At this point, the company's looking a little bit more healthy, so buyers will start buying those shares. And once they start buying those shares, voting rights are going to Kalanick. So after 4 to 5 months of this, company's looking good, looking like it's back on track. Boom, Kalanick is back in office, and guess what? He has all of this voting power now. You really can't get rid of him unless the company goes public. And at that point, he might even be more determined to keep Uber from going public, because trust me, this not going public thing, this is pretty much a Kalanick thing. And, well, then the investors really aren't going to be seeing any of their money back. Not a dime. And at that point, I don't know what you would do. I don't know what you would do. I guess all the investors could bail. They could. And leave Kalanick holding the ball. And Kalanick might destroy the company, and his pride might bring in the company. He'd be the only one to suffer for it. But I don't know. It's the bottom line is it's not a good deal. So drivers and people who work for Uber might want to pray that the people who do want to sell their shares in Uber don't have the chance to. Also, I want to talk about this other thing, in the sense that if Kalanick sold his shares, he could bring down Uber. He could very well bring down Uber if he decided to cash out. And you know what? That's possible. Some people say, well, you don't want that, do you? And you know what? Not really. I don't want Uber to go away. I would like to see it improve. That is why, even after I've more or less deleted the Uber app, even after I keep telling you to delete Uber, even after I keep encouraging the protests and the boycotts, after several other big name YouTubers who are in this business said, you know what, we're throwing in the towel, we're giving up, it's not working. Even though I'm still on it, it's because I want to see the company improve. I really do. I have to start offering advice to people who need to find another line of work. There's more than just Uber out there, and I keep forgetting I'm the app-trepreneur. I'm not the Uber-trepreneur. I need to start giving people advice on how to make money outside of Uber. And I'm getting caught up in the news too much, and I'm not doing it. So I don't want Uber to go away, but at the same time, if Kalanick cashed out and brought the company down, and someone either bought Uber or they were out of the game, I don't know. There is still Lyft, there is still Get, there is still Grab, there's still Via. There's those places in Austin, Texas. There's Postmates, there's DoorDash for most people. And there's Caviar, and there's Saucy, and there's Drizzly, and Uporder. At this point, I'm almost wondering, if Uber went away, how much would the game change? How much would it change? Would it change for the better, or would it change for the worse? It's kind of like those people who vote for dangerous CEOs or politicians in the first place, who are radical and they are a little extreme, but you just have to wonder. I'm kind of curious to see what would happen if this was the result of doing this. If Kalanick cashed out and Uber went under, I think I would almost look at the future with some fear, yes, but almost a little bit of excitement. Like, what's going to change now? What is it going to change? And so I don't know. So yeah, the share thing is very complicated, and the only way we could know for sure exactly what selling of the shares and the cashing out and stuff, all that could do, is to read the contracts, dissect the contracts, and have a lawyer explain what's in the contracts and spell it out in plain English. So, but that also goes to show just how much in turmoil Uber is. Kalanick could secretly be gaining more power. He could take down the company almost single-handedly if he wanted to. And some employees want to sell shares, but they're not able to sell shares because no one wants to buy the shares because they see how toxic the company is. And if the company improves a little over time, that might in the long run be to our detriment because it might make the shares easier to sell. And oh boy, I'm getting exhausted just thinking about it, folks. I'm getting so exhausted just thinking about it. So, but anyway, so what are your folks' thoughts? I don't even know where to go. What are your thoughts? Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you like the videos I produce, consider becoming a Patreon. You could become one for like just as little as $1 a month, or buying some swag from the Great Media Universe store. There's a code below for 15% off your entire first order. Every little bit helps keep the videos coming and supports the channel and what I do. And as always, flame responsibly. #delete Uber.